posted 3 years ago. Someone who could recall and explain the difference in that, and that came within 2 votes that became law 3 years ago. And it appears to me that it's just opposite, and it does have the effect of causing folks to really want to move to our state. I'm not sure that's the vote we want, but if someone could comment on that, I'd appreciate it.
Senator Whitaker, you recognize to respond to Senator Taylor's questions.
Senator, I have not really digested the entire Oklahoma bill yet, but this is the tip of the iceberg, our first attempt to do something. But I think when you hear from the Department of Education, the Department of Higher Education, that might become much clearer than we can address in the time allotted now, but when we hear from them. And the bottom line is how it's affecting Arkansas financially. And this is really a fact-finding, factual input study to find out where we are and what we need to do to control this situation if we can, if at all possible. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Whitaker. Representative Sumter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Matthew, this is probably a question best for you. If we'll look at page 13 of the Oklahoma legislation, there are some, it seems to be, and I'm just kind of perusing it, but some exemptions, services that we will continue, or that at least Oklahoma continues to provide. And they seem to be basic humanitarian services that you're not going to deny on emergency medical treatment. You're not going to deny on immunizations. And I'm reading that correctly, correct?
You are reading that correctly. A lot of those are federal issues, and you can't touch those regardless. Sure. So even if those weren't listed here, those would be unscathed.
Nor do I think that would be the intent of this study, to deny the basic humanitarian rights. Can we, as we have the state agencies come up and talk about what the costs that we're incurring will be, also have them spell out, well, there's federal things like this that we're going to have to continue to provide so that we can have a definitive difference between what we really might be able to disallow and save and help root out illegal immigration and what we are going to continue to service regardless of citizenry status.
I think that we'll be prepared to do that, and hopefully some will be prepared to address those things today. And as things unfold, I'm going to get back to what we said earlier. I know this is going to require us to have at least 1, possibly 2 more meetings to answer some of the questions you're talking about that will be hopefully brought to light by this first meeting. Any further questions of staff? Representative Green.
Just a comment, Representative Sumner. The Department of Human Services and so forth, other than pre-K, they will be speaking in our second meeting. So the things you mentioned about the Oklahoma law will be addressed in the second meeting session.
Any further remarks by staff?
Yes, just a few. Briefly, and I'll be very brief, I'm just going to walk you through, after the third green sheet of paper, dividing the first sections in the first category, there is an Immigration in Arkansas fact sheet that's been put together. This just gives you some various statistics and quotes from numerous reports that have been cited, and you can review those, at the proper time. Some of them point to like the percent of the state's immigrants that are undocumented in 05 and 04-05% of what the report listed as 104,000 population at that time. We have it broken down by corrections and courts, economics, education, employment and labor, as well as health care. So that document is also in your binder. And then right behind that, there is a document that says costs to selected state agencies for Arkansas immigrant population where data is available. Now this includes legal and illegal immigrant population, just to make that known to you. And it includes some data from the Department of Corrections, which is more detailed in their section, and I will let them speak to. But it also includes some information from education, which is just dollars from foundation funding per student, also ELL, English language learners, ALE, alternative learning students, as well as NSLA, which is the National School Lunch Program. So these figures are here on that page for you to reference, and they're broken down by cost to the state, approximate or estimated cost to the state. The agency, Higher Education and Workforce Services, is also included in there.
Representative Woods.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Kristen, I just want to make sure that this study today, what we've done so far just today is one of 2 meetings. As of today, the dollar amount is about $169 million. That's what this, that is the
That's what these
bottom
titles
dollar
are, okay.
amount. Yeah, that's the bottom dollar for our study for today.
For today, yes.
Thank you.
I'm sure that approximate figure will increase greatly as we go through these meetings. I would also like to ask staff, as we decide the date of our next meeting, to contact someone from the Federal Office of Homeland Security. Maybe you can do that through our Office of Homeland Security, and maybe get someone to come down, maybe a deputy director, to give a briefing on what they're implementing at the federal level that we saw in the news the other day, to give our committee a clear idea of where Homeland Security might be going as well with this, because if they're addressing some of the issues that's going to require us to maybe pass laws, I think it would be helpful to the committee to hear from that as well. Any further questions of staff before we get into presentations from agency personnel? Okay, if not, let's move on into item 3A and hear from the Department of Correction. I would ask everyone, if you have any questions, hold your questions until the end of the particular agency presenting, and then we'll take the questions at the end of their individual presentations. Please come up, yes, and take a seat. And you don't have to come all the way up here. You can take a seat back there if you would, and identify yourself for the record. And you're recognized to make any remarks you'd like.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm George.
Please get close to the mic and make sure it's on.
Yes, sir. I'm George Brewer. I'm the Administrator of Research and Planning for the Department.
Committee members, can y'all hear that okay? I'm not, I can't either. Maybe it's, we need to turn the volume up, or are you sure your mic is on?
Yes, sir. Can you hear
I think
now?
we're going to try. You're fine. Now please continue.
I'm George Brewer. I'm the Research and Planning Administrator for the Arkansas Department of Correction. There are some numbers that we have included in the report that the staff has put together. The procedure that we use, I think Matt mentioned something that we're not required to report to INS. We've been doing that for a number of years. We regularly report to the Border Patrol, their office in Fort Smith, anybody that we receive that is a foreign-born individual. We also report twice a month to the Department of Homeland Security to 4 different individuals there. Normally, if we have an illegal alien, there is a detainer filed by INS, and we hold them for them to pick up when they make parole or discharge their sentence from us. We also submit each year to the State Criminal Alien Assistance Program, and I think you have those numbers there. We're not reimbursed dollar for dollar. It is a reimbursement program that's been available for a number of years, and we've taken advantage of it since it's been in existence.
Are you finished?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Representative Green.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Brewer, first of all, let me say how much I appreciate the Department of Correction being proactive with information and data. Just like you said, you're not required to gather this data, and it's not often we see the Department of the State that's proactive in gathering data without us telling them to do so. Comment I have to make is, until I saw your report, I was under the impression that anyone housed in our correction system in Arkansas, that we were fully funded, reimbursed from the federal government. So your testimony today is that we are not reimbursed totally for the incarceration of inmates. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's my understanding. I got the numbers of how much we did receive last year and compared it to the number of days that we submitted for. And just based on what our average cost per day is, the numbers are pretty far apart.
And also, I understand, having read this, and it wasn't in this, but I heard from someone, and I just want you to verify this, that once a person is incarcerated, they cannot be deported until they serve their full sentence. Is that correct?
Well, that's the practice of the INS, or the people picking them up on the detainer. They would not pick them up until after they've discharged their sentence here.
So once a person's been sentenced